Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Amplify Your Business. Today, I have a couple who are partners in life, but also partners in their business. So with me today is Nadine and Franco Dookhoo. They are the owners of Naco Commercial Property Solutions, and they're located here in the Edmonton region. And I just want to say welcome to the show to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So right off the top, before we get into the business that you're in, I want to see if I can tease out any, great pieces of knowledge out of your vast entrepreneurial history here. You guys have been in business for a number of years. And so I'm just curious, what are three things that you think every entrepreneur should know?
It's not easy. It is a lot of hard work. And a lot of it too, you learn as you go. You can't know everything, no matter what school, no matter what people tell you. Your journey for an entrepreneur is going to be your journey, and every business is different.
Learn to understand your market is crucial, and getting constant feedback from your client is the most important thing.
Yeah, isn't that the truth, right? I mean, if you don't understand what their needs are, you're never going to be able to really fulfill them. And so we can make some assumptions, and that can be very, very dangerous. And so having that knowledge, and I loved what you said, Nadine, just about it's not easy. It's a lot of work. There's so many people. It's so funny, right? Like there's a lot of people who look at us entrepreneurs and they from the outside and they look in and they're like, you know what? That just looks like so much fun and it'd be so easy. They probably have so much time off and so on. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort.
You may have sometimes, I think, physical time off, but not mental time off.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. I'm always thinking about the business. And the worst part about it, for me anyway, I don't know if you guys can relate, I'm sure you can though, is there's always like 20 or 100 things that are like on the to-do list that I never get that completely cleared off as a business owner. Can you guys relate to that?
Yeah,
that's very true. I think the biggest thing for myself is because I'm working closely out in on properties, I tend to, everywhere I go, I tend to see opportunities. So the brain never shuts off on the opportunities.
Yeah.
And then you tend to overthink. Shutting off is a hard thing to do.
Yeah, totally. And I love what you just said there about the opportunities, always seeing that. I think that is the gift or possibly the curse that us entrepreneurs have, right? Is that we don't see problems, we see opportunities usually, right? Because there's always like, there's a solution there somebody hasn't maybe thought of yet. But you mentioned being out on property, Franco. And so I think now would be a good time for you guys to maybe give us a little bit of a background as to what Naco does, so we have a better understanding of the context in which this conversation is going to be held.
Well, on commercial and industrial sites, and including commercial residential sites, there's an estimated 14 to 15 different services that's required to maintain parking lots and the grounds. We provide 12 out of those 14 services to our clients, from snow removal to landscaping to anything to do with asphalt and concrete maintenance and care. Pretty much.
Line painting, the stop signs that people run over, we fix those, the homeless camps, like all the little things, the clean outs of buildings, like anything you can think of, all the little jobs that maybe you don't think someone does, we do.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So is it mostly, you mentioned in the parking lot and like the landscaped area, the lot, is anything to do with the buildings at all, or is it
we're strictly
we do wash them?
We do wash the interior of industrial bays. We also we will assist our clients in move outs, and get basically having their vacant suites show ready.
Okay.
But I would say 90% of what we do, or 95% of what we do, is exterior. parking lot meet.
Gotcha. And so now you guys have been doing this for a little over 16 years, or it's just this
We
month
just
actually. There's
It
finished,
started
yeah.
we're September 1st is the start of our 17th year.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Yeah,
Thank
that's a long time, right? Because I mean, oftentimes, I'm talking to entrepreneurs who are in that, year 1 to year 7 kind of range with their business. And so if you've made it through that valley of death, they call it, the first 5 years, things get a lot easier after that. You get a lot of referrals, a lot of recurring business. You've got the reputation now, and you've got your systems and your offering kind of nailed down. So 16 years, you guys have been at this. What have you learned along the way? Like, was there any surprises that came up between, year 1 and year 17 now?
A lot of paperwork is key. You have to have things in writing. And as sad as it is to say, you can't trust everyone,
Yeah.
and so you do need to make sure you dot the I's and make sure everything's in paperwork. We've tried the odd
We've
time to
done
help people out, and
the old school farmer shake hand deals in the beginning of our business, which we've been burnt on before financially. So we learned that by having proper contracts in place, having a legal department to help us out, proper accounting department to help us out, it's really keep us on track and keep people honest. That's pretty much what it's done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think
that was the largest learning lesson for us.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's actually one of the areas that I was probably weakest at when I started too, was just the paperwork part of it, that administrative part, because it's not fun. Nobody really wants
No,
that. Well, I didn't get into
no.
business just to be doing up contracts and documenting everything. And so yeah, there's a lot of things that I've done over the years where it has just been very verbal or a handshake or whatever. Thankfully, I've gotten away with it for the most part, but you're right. Like, we have to always remember that the person on the other end of that deal, on the other side of that table, they are not necessarily the same as us. And I've definitely been burnt as well on a few things. And it's just, sometimes it's just like, it just really blows my mind that somebody else who's in business would actually risk their reputation by, reneging on or completely ignoring certain aspects of a contract or the deal and so on. So yeah, you got to protect yourself for sure.
We've taken all of those negative situations and learned from it.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it. You get taught a lesson, and it's a lesson as long as you're learning. If you continue to do the same thing, then there's no point. So we've had now we have a great lawyer, accountant, and now we're working with new advertising people as well. We are working with an insurance broker, which is something I didn't even know existed till a couple of years ago. So, which is really great thing. But I think one of the biggest things, like we were saying, is having those professionals in place to work for you, because as new entrepreneurs, you don't always know these things, and we don't have any further than a high school education. And so you kind of learn from your peers and other business owners or professionals. And I would say take their advice, listen to what they have to say, because you don't know everything. A friend of ours too said, don't take advice from the guy that is working at McDonald's. He doesn't know anything about being an entrepreneur or making money. You listen to the people that have learned and experienced it.
Yeah. If you can surround yourselves with people who have lived it, right, or who have the expertise within it, right? Yeah, that's the key. So I'm curious, because a lot of things change in 16 years, right, in a business and an industry. I mean, just our city alone, there's been so many changes. But I mean, your industry in particular, the way people maybe engage the services or need the services probably changed as well. If you were to, either one of you or both of you were to sit down and write a letter to your younger selves, so the 16 years ago, when you were first starting the business, what would be in that letter? What would you include in that if you could write something to yourself?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
that is tough. I think for us, when we start off, we didn't really understand. There wasn't 16 years ago. There wasn't a lot of financial institutes that are willing to assist you with the ability to grow finance. buying equipment and having a property to run your business out of and so on. We learned that there is.
Well, going to a bank like BDC or some Canadian Western Bank is another one as well. Usually these major banks will not loan you money, but like a lot of things we had done personally, like I don't know that there's much that you could have told us. Like so many things, I'm not big on coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like you have to experience things as you go. It makes you who you are. And without those, you can't be here. So I know that's kind of maybe not what like to tell us what to know. I don't know. It'll be okay. It'll work out, maybe.
Have faith, right?
Yeah,
Have faith in it.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's the truth of it is it's really difficult sometimes to anticipate, and so you do have to as an entrepreneur learn through those mistakes. So a question for you, because of the people who are listening today, maybe there's some mistakes that you have made. We talked a little bit about the paperwork part of it, making sure you get that done, and then the contracts and stuff, but just from a business standpoint, was there any learnings that came from any mistakes that you guys have made over the years that you could share with our audience today?
One would be about getting paid. From the time that you have served someone the last day of service, if they don't pay you within 30 days, you have 45 to place a lien. So do that. If you have any question of them not going to pay you, lien the property. Like we have a lawyer that I call up, we need this one liened, and he does it for me within a day or two. And like it has saved us a couple times, and the clients respond very quickly. You can talk to them till you're blue in the face, but when they see that on their desk,
We've also learned that because you deal with a particular property manager, or even a site supervisor, they're not the ones writing the checks. You'll get the song and dance of the check's on its way or the invoice is being processed, and then you now be lapsed the time when other people are making decisions on signing those checks. So I think for us, it would be being more diligent on our receivables. I think that's a big part of it. And that comes down to not necessarily not trusting your clients, but basically holding your clients accountable. Because at the end of the day, the legal part of how we collect, if you run out of time, you'll never collect.
So a quick question for you guys on that, just because I think when a person starts their business, and even myself, I mean, I'm over a decade into our business as well. We're going to be celebrating our 11th year, I guess, here coming up this next month, I guess it is. And so I still, there's a bit of discomfort that I have in that part of it, where it's like to push to get the payment on that, like with some of the ones who are just perennially late. They're 30 days, 60 days all of a sudden, and then 90 days, and then we'll get caught up a little bit. And it's like, and so I'm not on top of it as well as I should be. Is this something that you still have some hesitancy, or is it just, what we
do? We have clients with large portfolio, and just because you're behind on one property doesn't mean you're behind on the other 14 or 15 properties. So we do what we can to partner with our clients. We do what we can to make sure that we're communicating. I think that's the key. Is a lot of the larger companies out there, they have their payables and they have their receivables. So when we're sending out messages about invoices and collections, pretty much it goes out to a multitude of people and not just one individual. I think, but it is definitely difficult. I mean, even recently with the way cost has been, skyrocketed, and we have, and contracts are locked in a certain price. We have to communicate, certain needs to our clients, and hopefully.
Well, then we do gauge. It's not like it's the first thing we jump to. You communicate a little, and you kind of have to go feel for it. Like one client that we are working with, the property manager's like, well, I understand you have to do what you have to do to get paid. Like they're not even, the client or the person we're working with completely understands. And so it's a full communication, and it is done on per client basis. We don't have a standard, you didn't pay 30 days, we're going to go do this. We're not like that. There is communication before, it happens.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's the biggest thing. And you know, I also feel you give out what you give back, where our bills are always paid on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Understanding where the problem is within that company is super important, because it may not be the manager you're dealing with. It could be their accounts department, or even could be the landlord.
Yeah.
The landlord itself. And a lot of landlords are not even living here in Alberta. They're overseas, or
Yeah.
and it's landlords are the ones who release funds. So it's understanding where that partnering with them is super important too, because a lot of times we don't necessarily need to have full payment. Just show us that you're making partial payments.
Mhm.
even
Um,
finding options. Like we have one client that we would take the money out of their account for them.
Hmm.
It worked better,
yeah.
you know, so we accept e-transfer, you know, checks, and however you want to do it, we can accommodate however they'd like it done. I think that's key too. We don't have credit card, but I think I've maybe had one in 17 years ask. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's our business. Every business is
I think
different.
I think
So
for a lot of new businesses, they need to understand though the logistics part of it, the legal part of it. If we, even though we're not getting paid, as long as there's a contract in place and we're continually working, there is opportunities to continue, basically building that account, and companies will eventually get caught up. But from the last day of work, if there's no other work on that particular property moving forward, you only have 45 days until the last day of work performed to be able to take any legal actions. So you
Yeah.
really have to monitor that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really important distinction there. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of that. I certainly wasn't aware of that. I didn't realize that there was a 45-day limit like that. So that's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Good tip. Now, I'm just curious about your relationship between the two of you, because you're married, you're partners in the business as well. Sometimes that works really well. Sometimes there's some friction that happens. How do you two make it work so that, the one doesn't bleed into the other? So, you're maybe having a personal, fight or spat at home or something like that, but you have to show up and work together. How do you guys keep that going?
I was pregnant a couple months after we bought the business. So, or after it started. And so I've always been in the office and do the paperwork. And I've always been very content with that, because I am a little better with the computers than Franco is. And I am an organizing freak. Like, I'm spreadsheet queen, make them all pretty.
I think
So, and he deals with, well, I will still speak with clients, but he does all the quotes.
our background, our strongest, or what we excel in, is basically customer service. That's our background.
Yeah, we worked in restaurants for years.
Working together as a team, I think the first year there was growing pains. Yeah, we lock horns, and
I think pregnant.
I think a lot of it also too had to do with the fact that a lot of financial expenditures are going out, and things are not coming in, and that adds a little bit of stress there. But early on, what we did was we established roles. Nadine's, we take each of our strong points, and that's what we applied basically to the business. And anything else that was lacking in between, we worked together on. I'm very good with working with the staff, working hands-on, working with clients.
Yeah.
Nadine is awesome when it comes to the administration part of it, and she's great with the financial part of it. If I need to buy a piece of equipment, or I need money to do anything, I call her up and say, I need this yesterday, and she makes it happen.
We've heard a lot of relationships where the wives get really angry. What do you need a new another sweeper for? And for me, I understand, and I also trust him that he's making the best decisions for us, for the company.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, you need that machine. I realize that machine makes us money.
Yeah.
And I think not everyone understands that you have to put the money out there to grow and to expand. And so, I've always been very supportive that way. We always find a way to make everything work. And something bad happens, I just say I'm the positive one. So
we believe in putting positive energy out there. I do have to say, and I'll say this to any any of the new startup companies out there that's either in our field or in an office, you have to continue invested in equipment. You have to keep equipment current, because there's two things that happen. One, old equipment or used equipment or whichever does not hold up well. They tend to break down more often, which is costly. And secondly, if you're giving your staff members old broken equipment, their experience is going to become a poor one.
Yeah.
And you tend to have a lot of more frustrations when you're working. So
And then
investing,
turnover as well, then on staff turnover, right? They get frustrated, they leave. Is how
they do.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And that must be something in your business though, that is, you know, an ongoing challenge always, is staffing, right?
Biggest one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And not all of it, I think a large part of it is the fact that we do have seasonal workers that goes back to school, and because our services is seasonal. You know, landscape is 6 months out of the year, snow removal 6 months out of the year. So but we have a solid base. We have a solid base of crew that works year round, and then probably 35% of our crew is seasonal crew. Also too, a lot of people come out and we bring them on board to work outside in the elements. Not because you're living in -40 weather doesn't mean you have the ability to work outside in -40.
I don't.
So not everybody unfortunately can handle it. But you know, we believe we have good programs in place, to be able to retain staff. I think that the challenges we run in today is there's not a lot of applications coming in these days. And I want to be very careful how I say that. Lot of people not working, but not a lot of people looking for work.
It's interesting, right? There's this the great resignation is what they were calling it, right? And so through COVID, it kind of shifted some thinking in the way that people are approaching work. And so some industries, I've talked to entrepreneurs, and you know, they put out a job posting and they're getting stacks of resumes, and other ones it's just crickets. They're not receiving hardly anything at all. For our business, we've been trying to recruit for a couple of positions here now for a couple of months, and we still haven't been able to fill them. It's just been really difficult for some industries. So a question for you, because I know that like just talking about the employee side of it, and I know you are really focused on growth. You can't do that without having the team, having employees around. And I also know that you're thinking about, okay, well, what does the future hold? And there was some discussion around potentially working an employee ownership angle into the business as well, right? Can you share with me and the listeners a little bit about how you're going to approach that, what your thoughts are on that, what the strategy is, because that's the exit strategy at this point for you as an entrepreneur, correct?
Well, for many years, running the business a lot is basically Nadine and I, and we have managers that work under us. They manage crew, they manage projects, and so on. What we want to establish is the first thing we're looking at is having the right people around us, and basically promoting existing crew, promotion from within, moving these people up into decision-making role, having them more involved with the clients. We've been working hard in the last year, basically, with introductions, bringing them, having them also creating a profit sharing program for our crew. We believe that our company is truly nothing without our staff.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
the one thing too, like profit sharing, the one thing you do realize as an entrepreneur, no one will work as hard as your business and as you will, because you have a vested interest. And if we expect and want to trust someone else to run and do everything for our business that we would, they have to have a vested interest as well. They have to be
Yeah.
getting something out of it. People don't just do things for free. They do it for money and for profit and job satisfaction. So we have to make sure that going forward, that the people that are working for us have that. We want them to want to do it.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know, so
Yeah.
yeah, and I think we do have a couple people in place that we're looking forward to grooming and putting in these positions, and hopefully everything will go well. And we understand it's a risk on both sides, like,
Yeah.
you know, to be put in that position. And our biggest concern too is that they could turn around and quit. You spend a year or two getting them to where you want to be, and then they quit, and you're no further ahead when you started.
Yeah.
So
I think the key is communicating with the current staff and
Mhm.
finding out what they want for their future. Because just because we see promise in someone that can benefit our business doesn't necessarily mean that's what they want for their future.
Yeah.
So we've been having lots of conversations lately with a lot of our leaders, a lot of our team leaders, and some of our new crew. There's a lot of new staff that's come in that actually have background in certain things, from doing tenders, you know, tender packages and so on for clients. And it's just a matter of finding out if that's something that they want to pursue as part of their future, because it makes no sense promoting a person who doesn't want to be in that position.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's also what they talk about is the Peter principle, right? Where you promote somebody to their level of incompetence, essentially. So, you know, you basically take your best landscaper and you make him the manager of the landscapers. Well, but if he's not, or she's not equipped or interested or trained on how to be a great manager, taking the best person doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the most successful manager too, right? So it's all about
I agree.
developing the right people. And
yeah,
I think you're bang on when you say, like, they have to have an interest first, that they have to see that as being a bit of their career or their professional kind of development and pathway. Without that desire, they're not going to be committed. So am I hearing you right then in the sense that the strategy that you're wanting to deploy is, you know, the communication to them, find out who are the people who are wanting to grow within the company, and then start to get them trained into more senior roles, then start to provide some profit sharing, and then it'll turn into then a potential for them to start to buy into the company if everything is going smoothly. Is that kind of the strategy?
Correct. That is. It's technically our 2-year plan.
Yeah.
You know, we know
50 is the goal.
we know this is not going to happen overnight. We are more than willing to put in the work. We've done it for 16 plus years already. I think for us, it's going to be, if we want to be able to slow down, personally, we have to invest in our people.
Yeah.
And that's the route we're heading in. One thing I want to touch on when it comes to the crew is not everybody is going to be a Franco and Nadine, and not everybody is going to be the best lead hand out there. I think for us, what's worked really well over the past few years is understanding everybody's strong points and utilizing the strong points. Don't allow weaknesses. Just focus on the strong points and apply that the best way you can to the business.
Yeah.
Even if they don't do something the same way that you would, doesn't make it wrong, makes it maybe different. And you have to learn, like, because I know too, like, being an organizing person, I like things done a certain way, like letters capitalized, this, that, same fonts kind of thing. I can be really neurotic, but to let those little things go that really don't even matter. And if someone else says that's how they work, let them work that way. You can't do, it's kind of like having children, I guess, in a sense. So too, you're teaching and letting them be themselves, but at the same time, teaching them what you know.
Allow them to make mistakes. You know, sometimes it's financially costly when they make a mistake, and have them learn and grow from that. I think that's crucial. I mean, a lot of startup companies don't have the financial ability to make a mistake that's
Yeah.
costly. I understand that. We were there.
Yeah.
But I learned years ago that I have to be able to let go, let the crew do their job, hold them accountable, because we were putting in so much time into, let's call it micromanaging, that we weren't we didn't have enough time to continue networking and build a business.
Yeah. And you can't do it all. And I think, like you said, Nadine, is exactly right. Like, if people are going to do it differently, as long as they get to the results, right? And if the results are there, then sometimes it doesn't really matter necessarily how they got there. And sometimes their pathway is going to be a better pathway even than what ours are, even though we think that. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm curious, because I know that you are wanting to grow, continue to grow the company here, and you've seen some tremendous growth over the 16 years. And so people are going to be, a key part of that, obviously. But beyond the people part, what is going to be the keys to your success, like to successfully grow the company over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
I'm hoping advertising is going to be one of them. To be very honest with you, it hasn't been something we've ever really done much of, other than creating the website. And it's, there, and having a brand. We've never done any advertising. So and even having the new managers that we are going to have in place, I'm hoping that they maybe have some ideas, and that's maybe part of the growth too, is that they'll have ideas as to how to expand and how to grow.
Yeah. Keep in mind that growth for us is not always more contracts and more money to the bottom dollar. It's growth for us too is having more of a quality time at home. So if we can develop our crew to take over a lot of what we're doing, that is growth for us also. I think for us, when it comes to growth of the business financially, we have some great things going on with Naco. I'm very proud to say that we've developed a recycle program for our winter gravel in the last 5 years, and there's not another company out there that does that. We're taking this product that's applied to these properties in the wintertime, and instead of it hitting the landfill and basically and going to waste or basically being buried into the ground, we take that material and we separate, clean it, and we put it back onto our properties. That for me is the most exciting thing that we have as part of the growth for the future. Because
it'll definitely distinguish you apart from the rest of the competition too, right? I mean, especially nowadays when you're taking a greener approach, a more environmental approach to it, that's going to be noticed.
We're excited about it. It's something that we invested money on as a test project. It worked incredible. We're excited to see where it's going to take us. So
that's really exciting. And so in terms of success, then we talked a little bit about that, but I'd love to hear from both of you, what does success look like? Like, if you were to sit back now and put yourself 2 years, 5 years into the future, and then reflect back on it, what needs to happen in order for you to look back on that and go, yeah, we've achieved success?
I think a lot of people, including myself, the first thing I want to say is financial.
Well, money is a good
thing. But I'm going to touch a little bit on my background.
What if even if you say, like, we've had someone now, I don't do the day-to-day paperwork that I used to do anymore, the payroll, all of the new employees and stuff like that, the invoicing I still help a little bit with, but I have a lot more free time, and I think Franco is getting there as well. We've got a new manager. We finally have someone else creating some quotes and estimates that we never had to do.
Yeah.
And that is success, and that we're taking one job off of our plate. So that to me is success.
For me, it would be
Yeah.
having financial stability,
Yeah.
having a better quality life with my family,
Yeah.
time-wise, and being able to mentally shut off. And also a big part of it is knowing that the people who are basically put in charge to run our operation is not just running our operation because of the financial rewards that they're getting, but also that they're happy doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because we, for 16 years, as much as we've had growing pains and a lot of headaches, I quite enjoy doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's 16 years and I still love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And I think that you're bang on so many, like I can totally relate to so many of that, especially the piece that you said, Nadine, about removing one of the hats that I have to wear, like if I can shed some of the hats, then it goes back to that time freedom that you were talking about, Franco, too, right? Before, where it's just I get time, I get quality time. I can shut off. Maybe I don't have to be thinking about everything. Somebody else is doing some of that.
His quality time is me putting him to work on the acreage.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's important. What was, I guess that the biggest part of this movement here for us was the fact that we actually sat down and put a timeline on it.
Yeah.
We want to see a bigger change in our quality of life within the next 2 years. How we're going to get there?
Yeah.
And we were so busy that we never even gave a thought about how we're gonna be able to get to the point of not necessarily retirement, but doing less.
Yeah.
Being less active in the company, and we were. As negative as COVID has been, there was positive that came out of it. It slowed us down, and it actually opened our eyes to how important time really is when it comes to family and friends.
Yeah, I can completely relate. Actually, right down to the timeline that you're talking about, the 2-year timeline, because that was mine at the beginning of this calendar year too. It's where I sat down and I visioned everything out, and I actually verbalized what I wanted to achieve within the next 2 years, where before that I hadn't. And I think there was a little bit of resistance that I had to doing that because I was fearful kind of a failing at it. But when you talk about it, you vision it, you state what that goal is going to be, now you have a marker that you can actually start to drive towards, that you can start to build some plans around. And as that timeline, get closer and closer to the deadline, it creates the urgency as well. And I think it just really applies focus to us, because again, going back to what you were saying earlier, is like your mind is going all the time about all the different things that you're having to think about and deal with as a business. It's easy for some of the goals to get kind of pushed off a little bit as you're dealing with the now. So by staking it, kind of putting your stake in the ground and saying, no, this is what we're going to achieve. It just changes, it pivots the way that we think about things, I think.
A lot of us business owners can become stubborn. I've been stubborn for 15 plus years. Nobody can do what I do.
Yeah.
And that was my stubbornness. And it's, it gets you to a point of spinning your wheels in mud.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can basically say it. You're busy, but you're going, the wheels are spinning, but you're not really going forward.
Yeah.
And it took a serious sit down and slow down for us to decide what do we want.
Yeah. Where are we going?
Yeah. Where are we going?
Yeah.
And I want more.
Hopefully to Costa Rica.
I want more. um,
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you both for sharing all your thoughts, the wisdom, the experience that you've had over the years. I mean, 16 years in a business and growing it the way that you have, and then the next couple of years of really strong growth as well. It's going to be really exciting to watch that, and I wish you all just the best for that. And I think you're on the right track. I think you're doing all the right things in terms of surrounding yourselves with the experts and then building that internal team, and then just really being focused on that goal. So I have no doubt you're going to see that success, and Costa Rica is right around the corner, Nadine. So thank you very much for sharing it today.
Thank
and
you.
thank you for having us.
So, and for those of you who are listening today, if you enjoyed this episode and want to check out some of our archives, head over to amplifyyourbusiness.ca. That's where you're going to find all of our past episodes, future episodes. And of course, the audio version is available on all of our major podcasting platforms that are available out there. So pick your favorite one and just search Amplify Your Business, and you're going to find us there as well. So until next time, everybody have a prosperous day.